Chapter 21. Dargo Island had only one school, and it was located inside the palace. I went to the palace, knowing Dargo was there. If he wasn't going to cure the mainland of his disease, I would. He may have locked down the train, but I didn't need it to get away from the island. I was horrified to find 2 soldiers hanging by their necks outside the palace gates. I walked through, seeing all Anila's former soldiers. They still wore the same uniforms, but now their face paint was red instead of blue and yellow. I remembered that the original colors represented peace and honor. The first islanders had no language, though they possessed the ability to speak. In order to represent their overall mood, they used the juices of plants and fruits. The default blue and yellow together meant peaceful. Yellow meant ready for war. Blue meant sad. And, well, red just meant defiant. The soldiers were showing their distaste for Dargo's forced leadership. I remembered the guards hanging outside the gate had their faces painted red. I looked inside each classroom I passed, trying to locate Dargo. I found him in a history class and walked away as quickly as possible. I heard him say to a student, "That, my dear, is entirely not true." I had no idea where the cure was, or if there was any more left, but I wasn't going to leave until I at least tried to find it. I searched the now empty sick ward that had, just 2 days ago, been filled with dying people. Champagne died in this chamber. It still smelled of death and decay, but at least it was empty. I saw the bowls Dargo had filled with the cure, but they were empty now. Next I went to the kitchens, but found only cooks. I smelled baked bread and seasoned meat. "Can I help you, dear?" a plump elderly woman asked. She had blue and yellow paint on her face. I didn't know if I could trust her with my quest. I had never met her before, and I doubted she knew who I actually was. I decided to be careful, since I didn't know where her loyalties lay. "No, thank you." "Well, I'm Verna, the head cook, and I don't like strangers wandering my kitchens. Out with you." I left the kitchen and headed upstairs, toward Anila's bedchamber. She told me Dargo had taken her room. I couldn't imagine a better place to store something secret than your own bedroom. I'd done it for years. There was a soldier standing outside the large doors. He had blue and yellow paint as well, and I recognized him as Commander Reese. I walked up to him. "I see you're not wearing the red paint like the others." He stared at me for a moment before replying, "King Dargo killed 2 of my men the other day. When they showed up with the paint, Dargo challenged them to a duel. He said if they defeated him, Anila could retake the throne. He killed them." I grew nauseated. "Is Anila all right? I haven't seen her in a while." I smiled. "She's fine. She's staying with us at the house. She misses you too." Reese nodded. "My comrades talked about rebelling last night, but I talked them out of it. I can't watch any more of my own men die. The king scares me more than anything I've ever faced." "He scares me too. That's why I'm here." I got closer. "Do you know where he keeps the ingredients for his cure?" He instantly started sweating. "I do, though he doesn't know I know." "Where are they? Is there more of the cure around?" He wiped his mouth. "Yes, ma'am." "Where? Please tell me." He said nothing. "Do you know what's happening on the mainland? The plague is killing people, just like it was here. I can help them, but I need to get a hold of the cure." "How can you get to the mainland? The train is shut down. I have my ways. Please tell me where the cure is. He jerked his head backwards so slightly that I barely noticed. He then looked down the hall. What was that? I didn't hear anything. Well, I should check it out. He ran down the hall, away from Dargo's room. It took me longer than I cared to admit to understand what was happening. Thank you, Reese, I whispered, before opening the door and stepping inside. The room was brightly lit due to the open balcony door. I could see the second island below. Next to the door was a bird cage. Inside the cage was a large red bird. Dargo had made another one. It stared at me with milky eyes, its large, sharp beak shining like a knife's edge. I walked over to a wardrobe across the room and found a small green bottle full of orange liquid in a drawer. It was sealed with a cork. The cure. Why are you not at your station? Dargo asked from outside the room. I apologize, my lord. I thought I saw something at the end of the hall. I checked on it. Did you find anything? No, my lord. I crawled inside the wardrobe just as the chamber door opened. Let me know if you hear or see anything else, Dargo told Reese as he closed the door behind him. Though I couldn't see him, I could hear him cross over to the balcony. Hello, birdie, he said. How are you today? Not great, I suppose. You'll be ready soon, my pet. I waited, listening. I prayed he didn't come to the wardrobe, because I didn't know what he would do if he found me here. Suddenly, the left door opened and light shone on something next to me. I was still hidden behind the right door. Ah, still safe, Dargo said to the skeleton beside me. He closed the door again. I wanted to scream. I was trapped in a wardrobe with a skeleton. After what felt like 10 minutes, I heard nothing outside. I heard loud snoring a few minutes later and figured Dargo was asleep. He must have been a slave to the limitations of a human body after all. I waited 10 more minutes before opening the wardrobe slightly. I saw him on the bed, his eyes closed. The sun had gone down a little, soon to set. Was Reese still at the door, or had the shift changed? I had to get the cure out of here, but I couldn't risk opening that noisy chamber door or running into another soldier. I stepped out of the wardrobe, and the sunlight showed me the skeleton's skull again. I was happy there was no decayed flesh on it, but I still felt creeped out because it had been so close to me for nearly 20 minutes. I grabbed the green bottle, which was filled to the top, closed the wardrobe, and walked onto the balcony. The bird cage had been covered with a sheet, so I didn't have to look at that hideous bird. I looked back at Dargo and watched him sleep peacefully. It hurt so bad seeing someone who used to be my friend and knowing it wasn't him. I was many stories up and couldn't even imagine jumping from here, but I had a better idea. It was something Dad taught me, my first lesson, in fact. I called on the wind, and it came. I jumped, and it caught me, carrying me away from the palace. I landed just outside the courtyard. Most of the islanders had gone home, so no one saw me fly or land, luckily. I hopped on my Bethel, placing the bottle in a saddlebag, and slowly trotted home so I could put my plan into action.